Okay, it's working. I have way too many things on my screen. Hello, everyone. I'm Debbie Hatch, owner and CEO of Pinnacle Personnel Services. I know I have not been doing my Friday Night Lives. I'm trying to get everything done. There's just so much to do in the whole scheme of things, and I know that you all feel that with me. So the Friday Night Lives just get pushed to the back, pushed to the back. I'm doing my regular job, going out teaching, doing webinars, trying to update the books and everything because December was super busy with a lot of people retiring. And then in January, you've got all the new information coming out. And so every one of the books needs to be updated. Every one of the webinars needs to be updated. So all of that's been happening. I am always thrilled when I can find the time to actually come in and do a Facebook Live. These do live on YouTube, so if you are watching it on YouTube, I shoot them on Facebook and then I carry them over to YouTube for you. Super busy day for me today. It's not actually Friday, but it feels like my Friday. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so I have 1,015,000 things to get done today, and I will have 2,030,000 to get done once I get back from vacation. But while I'm on vacation, I will be enjoying myself. So again, you know what that's like. So I thought about waiting to do this live stream until tomorrow since it is Friday. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. I've got an extra couple of minutes right now. If I wait until tomorrow, who knows what is going to fall out of the sky, and then I'll just never get around to it. So I am going to take the time to do it right now. This is titled Valuable Information That You Should Be Receiving from Your Federal Agency. What I'm going to do in this video is actually take you through the federal retirement application, talk about some things that you need to be aware of as you're filling out that paperwork, because if you make a mistake on that application, it can add significantly to the processing time, and it's already taking a while for that to be processed. So hopefully this is going to be really good information for you. And I'm going to ask for those of you who have already retired from the federal government, because I know I have a lot of subscribers and viewers who have done that, help us out. Tell us in the comments, what is the biggest thing that shocked you as you went through the retirement process, or the biggest tip that you had ahead of time that made things easier for you? We can learn from one another. So definitely, please share this if you find it helpful, but also leave comments and let us know what was difficult for you, what worked for you, what was good for you, what kind of input you would give to the other people coming behind you who are also going through their federal retirement. So this is a class that I teach. Actually, I have a 4-hour session where I take people through their retirement application line by line. Some of you watching this video may have attended that class. Others, maybe that would be valuable to you, but I'm thinking that this is going to be a standalone. So even if you don't ever have a chance to come to a class, this will be helpful. Depending on what retirement system you're covered under, you fill out a different retirement application. If you are under the Civil Service Retirement System, CSRS, or if you are a CSRS offset employee, then you complete a standard form 2801. I wanted to give you the address so you could just pull that up on your computer and look at it anytime you feel like it. I'll tell you, that's one bit of good information. You shouldn't wait until you're actually filling out your retirement application to look at it for the first time. 6 months ahead of time, a year ahead of time. Go get it, look at it. That gives you some time to do research. It gives you some time to ask questions and to get answers to your questions before you start putting pen to paper, so to speak. If you are covered under FERS, and it doesn't matter what manner of FERS you are, you could be a traditional employee, a special provisions employee, retiring under FERS, FERS RE, FERS FRE, or even a FERS disability, then you would complete a standard form 3107. Now, speaking of disability, if you're going out that way, you're going to do the regular application, and you're also going to have to do an additional form that outlines all of your medical situations. So you can see that right there as well, but it's the regular retirement application that you would go through. If you are planning to leave the federal government now, but file for retirement later, either through postponed or deferred, that is a different retirement application. So again, I wanted you to have the form number. You can pull that up and look at it for yourself. Another thing that you're going to have to complete when you leave the federal government is not only your retirement application, but if you have the Federal Employees Group Life Insurance, you have to complete a continuation form for that, telling us how you want that life insurance to look in retirement. We're not going to talk about that today. I've done a video already on FEGLI. You can just scroll down through and look for that, or let me know if you can't find it. I'm happy to send you a link. You have a very large role to play when it comes to this federal retirement application. It is you who fills it out, right? And before you do that, you should be verifying all of your federal time, all of your records. You want to ideally make sure that everything is as easy as possible, not only for your federal agency, but also for the Office of Personnel Management, so that they don't have to spend time coming back to you and asking you for this record, asking you for that period of time. You want this stuff to be ready to go. So again, it's a good idea, a year ahead of time, to start getting into your federal records. This is your electronic official personnel file. Make sure that everything is in there to document all of your federal time, every job that you've ever had. If you've made a military deposit, you may want to look in there to see if your military deposit paid in full letter is there. If you have paid back a civilian deposit or a redeposit, check to see if that paperwork is there. It's a good idea, and you've heard me preach this for a very long time, to make sure that your designated beneficiary forms are always up to date. That isn't a retirement issue, that is a life issue. Again, I'm not going to talk about those forms today. We've done that several times, but please make sure that you are taking the time to do your designated beneficiary forms. You complete the retirement application and submit it to your Human Resources office. One of the questions I get from people is, how far in advance do I have to do the paperwork? It depends on the agency that you work for. Some agencies want the paperwork 60 days ahead of time, 90 days ahead of time, 120 days ahead of time. Some agencies are currently asking for it 6 months in advance. A year out, it's a good time for you to talk to your Human Resources office and ask them, when do you want my retirement application? So you can make sure that you're following your own agency's timelines, since they are different across the board. Now, when I say Human Resources, I mean the component of your federal agency that takes care of all of your insurance and retirement benefits. A lot of times, that isn't somebody that's down the hallway from you. That isn't somebody that's working in the same building or on the same installation as you. Many times, agencies are using regionalized personnel centers, things like AFPC, ABC, the Albuquerque Service Center. Those are just some examples. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about HR here. They're required by Title V to provide retirement counseling to you and estimates. They don't all do it as a matter of course. Sometimes they assume if you don't ask for counseling, you're good to go. If you have questions, make sure that you are contacting them and getting answers to your questions. If you're good to go, like everything looks fine, yours is pretty simple, you're not worried about it, cool. Some agencies do just automatically set up the counseling. They may have a Zoom meeting with you or something like that. Again, they're all different. Whatever your agency does is absolutely fine. What I want you to know is that you have a right to get any of your questions answered, and the people that need to provide the answers about federal retirement are those that are in your Human Resources Benefits office. That office is going to go through your application, validate and verify that you are actually eligible to retire. They're going to coordinate on the RPA, or Request for Personnel Action, which is a Standard Form 52 that ultimately drives the Standard Form 50 Personnel Action. And if you look at your federal retirement application, towards the back, you're going to see a couple of pages. It says right on the top of it, this will be completed by your Human Resources office. So you don't need to fill that out. These people are going to do that. You fill out the application, you send it to them. When Human Resources is done with their part of it, they are going to send it along to your payroll office. Now, again, we're typically talking about a regional payroll center here. Examples include DFAS or the National Finance Center. There are several like that. So wherever your paycheck is coming from is where this is going to go. They are going to verify your annual salary for life insurance purposes, verify all the numbers for the high 3 average salary calculation. They are going to sign off on this application and then hold on to it until the date that you wrote on your retirement application comes and goes. Your retirement becomes effective at midnight of the date that you write down. Sometimes people change their mind at the last minute. So we can't send it forward until that date comes and goes. And we certainly can't close out your payroll records because we're going to have to pay you for your annual leave and everything until that date comes and goes. Once that date is here and it passes, you didn't change your mind, we close out your payroll records and send everything to the Office of Personnel Management in Boyers, Pennsylvania. OPM processes federal retirement for every federal retiree. So it doesn't matter the agency that you work for, it is going to go to OPM. The first thing they will do is send you something called your CSA number. This is your Civil Service Annuity number. It's how they track you in their system. Make sure you keep that in a safe location. As they're going through the process of legally adjudicating your federal retirement, if there's anything missing, they're going to come back to you or your agency, depending on what that is, and they're going to be getting that missing information, calculating your retirement, and doing everything that they need to do with it. It's going to take some time. On average right now, it's taking about 6 months for that federal retirement application to be processed. Now that doesn't mean you're going to be waiting 6 months to get your money. The interim or partial payments start pretty quickly, but you're going to be getting those partial payments for about 6 months until everything is figured out. Big deal things about those partial payments. Federal taxes are being withheld. State taxes aren't. If you live in a state that taxes you, be aware that you're going to owe something at the end of that year. Also, your health and life insurance are fine while you're on the interim payments. You don't need to do anything with those. You do, however, need to make direct payments for dental, vision, long-term care if you have those. Once everything's processed, you can have them come out of your retirement check if you want to, but while you're on the interim payments, you're going to be paying those yourself. Okay. Now, OPM is the office that is ultimately going to be sending you your retirement payments down the road. The first thing you need to do before you even fill out that application is make sure you're actually eligible to retire. This is going to be validated by your Human Resources office. It's going to be validated by the Office of Personnel Management as well. You need 2 things to retire from the federal government. You need to be old enough and you need to have enough creditable service. You know, there's several ways you can retire. We've got 8 different ways you can do it. Again, I'm not going to get into all of that today. We've talked about it before. You can look for videos. But if you're old enough and you have enough time, and that time includes your civil service time as well as military deposited time, then you can retire. With the civil service time, again, without getting too deep into that, I don't want to do that. We've talked about it before. Covered service is time that you're working in a permanent federal job and paying into the retirement system. If you look at your pay stub and there's a deduction for FERS or CSRS, that's a covered position. That counts. Some people have non-deduction service. Non-deduction service is when you're working in a temporary job, when you're working in a seasonal job. Temporaries and seasonals don't pay into retirement. That time doesn't count towards retirement unless you pay some money in later. You can only pay money in later if that temporary time occurred prior to January 1st of 1989. You can make a deposit for it and have that time count. Redeposit time, counts towards eligibility, which is all I'm talking about here. Whether you pay it back or not, it may or may not count towards computation. Two very different things. Again, not going to talk about that today. So we're going to take your covered time. We're going to take any time that you were in a temporary or a seasonal position as long as you paid for that time. And if you made a military deposit, you paid for that time, we're going to add that all together. That is your creditable service. Depending on how you're retiring and how old you are, again, you might need 5 years of that creditable service, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30, depending on how old you are. You need to have always a minimum of 5 years civilian time. It takes 5 years of civilian time to be vested in the system. Okay. So once I'm eligible, I submit this retirement application. Please, please, please make sure that it is 100% accurate. It says type or print clearly. Most of us are filling this out in online platforms, or maybe we are doing a PDF, a fillable PDF or something like that. So certainly it's going to be legible, but it is a very, very good idea after you fill it out to look at it. Make sure you haven't transposed any of the numbers. Make sure that it is exactly the way that you want it to be. If you need to add additional sheets to your application, you can do that. If you come to sections and you don't really have an answer, it's okay to write unknown. Example would be, one of the questions is, have you ever filed for workers' comp? And I say, yes, I have. Well, what was the claim number? I have no idea. Okay, so that's one example of me writing down unknown. If it asks me a question and I know approximately an answer, I should give them as much as I know. Examples here. If I did make a deposit for seasonal time, because that seasonal time was before 1989, but I don't know exactly when I paid that deposit, I do know it was in 1992, then I can say 1992, I can put a question mark so they know I'm not 100% sure that's when I paid it, but at least that gives them a place to start looking instead of my 30-year federal career that they have to go through, right? Make sure that you are using the name on your federal retirement application that is on your paycheck, so that everything is matching very easily as it goes through its process. So that's the name I want on there. It does ask for any names that you have previously used. Here, only list other names that you have previously used while you have been employed by the federal government. If you had a name before you came into the government, but you've always used this one here, then that's the only one that we should be seeing. When you are asked for your address and your phone number and your email, they want where they can contact you after you have left your federal job. So make sure that you are listing out your personal information, not your work information. And again, just please look at all of the numbers, the date of birth, the social security numbers. You haven't transposed something that's going to cause some potential issues for you. Your final date of separation, I've already done a video on a good day to retire, a better day, a best day to retire. Ask questions if you have them. I'm not going to get into all of that here. They do ask on your civil service retirement application if you ever served in the military and if you have retired from the military. If you served or if you retired, either one, they do want a copy of your DD Form 214. Whether you are making a military deposit or not, whether you are using your military time towards your civilian retirement or not, please attach a copy of your DD Form 214. It is member copy 4, which is the only one that shows your character of discharge. That's what they need to see. If you are going to be waiving your military retirement, they want a copy of the letter showing that you have done that as well. A few people do that, not everybody. For marital information, answer the questions. A lot of people look at their federal retirement application, it says marital, and they go, I'm single, I'm not filling that out. Every single person has to check yes or no, I'm married. Every single person has to check yes or no. I have an X that's entitled to part of my retirement or a survivor benefit. Don't skip this section, please. Everybody needs to fill it out. And they do ask for a copy of your marriage certificate. They also ask for a certified copy of a divorce decree. Only, please listen to this too, it's important. Only attach a copy of your divorce decree if it specifically says your ex is entitled to something. If it doesn't say that, do not attach a copy of your divorce decree. That adds time to your processing. And if it doesn't say that, you don't need to give them that additional paperwork. You have to make a decision on your federal retirement application as to whether you're going to be leaving a survivor benefit or not. This is kind of like insurance, where you're leaving a financial benefit to your spouse or your ex-spouse. But like life insurance, if you do that, you are going to have to pay for that as well. By default, we're all leaving a full survivor benefit when we fill out our retirement application, which means if we're under CSRS, it's 55% of what we're getting. If we're under FERS, it's 50% of what we're getting. That's the default. If I don't want to leave the default amount, then my spouse, if I'm married on the day that I retire, my spouse has to sign part of my retirement application in front of a notary. That's important. If they're not signing off, then I am leaving the 50 or the 55%, depending on what system I'm covered under. Your federal retirement application asks you whether or not you are able to keep health and life insurance in retirement. You can only answer yes if two things are both true. Only if you are enrolled in health or life on the day that you retire, and only if you have had those benefits for the last 5 years that you were working. It doesn't ask whether you're eligible to keep dental, vision, or long-term care, because those don't require 5 years. If you have them on the day that you retire, you can keep them. If you don't have them on the day that you retire, you can sign up for them during any future open season. Open seasons take place November to December every year while you're working and also after you have retired. Not all of these insurances participate in the open season. FEGLI doesn't, and FELTSIP, the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Plan, if that does come back into the federal government, is suspended right now, does not participate in the open season, but the others do. Your federal retirement application is going to ask you if you have ever applied for workers' comp, if that claim was approved or not approved. They do ask for your claim number. If you have all of that, please share it on your application. If you don't, again, remember that you can do that little question mark or go, I don't know what the claim number was, and they will start looking for that. Application asks about information about dependent children for potential benefits. Here, the kids do have to be unmarried up to the age of 18, as old as 22 if they're enrolled in school on a full-time basis, or a disabled child, regardless of age, if they became disabled prior to having their 18th birthday, and if they are incapable of self-support. Otherwise, you can leave that section blank. The next part of your application is going to ask if you want to have federal income taxes withheld from your monthly pension. It's easiest if you do, just like that federal tax comes out of your paycheck, the federal tax is going to come out of your retirement check. If you want to change your tax withholding at any time, you do a new W-4P, which stands for pension, and you send that to the Office of Personnel Management. And then just above the checklist in your federal retirement application, they ask you to sign and date the form. The checklist is optional, the signature isn't. And what I tell people in class is, even though the checklist is optional, there's no good reason not to do it. It takes 30 seconds and it gives you a little bit of a quality check to go, okay, yeah, I said I was in the military. Have I attached a copy of my DD Form 214? I said I had this. Have I attached the appropriate paperwork? Checklist is good. You don't have to fill it out if you don't want to, but you do have to sign and date your application. If you were in the military, if you retired from the military, or if you filled out a workers' comp claim at any time that you were employed by the federal government, you also have to do a Schedule A, B, and C. It's one of the forms, it's part of the application. You'll find it right there, but that's what that one's all about. You also have the form as part of your retirement application that your spouse would have to sign in front of a notary if you're not leaving the full 50 or 55%. As I said in the beginning, it is taking a little bit of time to process federal retirements. Do yourself a favor. Contact Human Resources about a year prior to your planned retirement date. Ask them when they want the paperwork. Get the paperwork to them when they requested it so that they have time to process everything and this is ready to go when you leave your federal job. Submitting it way early isn't going to do anything for you because remember, it starts with you, it goes to HR, and then it goes to payroll. Payroll can't close out your records until that last duty day. So it's not going to speed it up by you sending it in a year ahead of time. The chart that I have up here is OPM's retirement processing timeframes. You can look at this by going to their website, opm.gov. Month to month, they show you how many people retired from the federal government, how many federal applications they were able to get through, how many they still have to get through, which is their inventory, and it shows you how many days it was taking them to process a retirement for that month and for the year to date. So again, just really good information. If you're interested in looking at that, you can get it right off OPM's website. As I wrap this up, I also wanted to share with you key contacts as you're going through the process, okay? Once you have submitted the application, as you're going through retirement, you talk to your agency. The Office of Personnel Management is not going to engage with you until everything has passed through your agency. So you're going to HR with questions, concerns, making changes, anything like that. That date comes and goes. You have received your CSA number from the Office of Personnel Management. Now, your agency can't help you anymore because they don't have any of your information. Now, you need to go directly to the Office of Personnel Management if you have any questions. Once they finalize everything, they're going to give you access to their online system. You can go in there, make changes, ask questions, send emails, download your 1099-R and all of that kind of stuff. Okay? Quick, but I met my goal, which was to keep this under 30 minutes. I hope it's helpful. This is a big area where there is a lot of room for making mistakes. And any mistake on this federal retirement application is potentially adding time to you getting those pensions, those annuity payments coming in. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have comments. Let me know if you're watching it later. You found it helpful, you didn't. And remember, I asked you for a favor. If you have already retired from the federal government, help out some other people. Let us know what worked well. Let us know where you saw challenges so that we might be able to help other people avoid those things. I'm Debbie Hatch. My website is pinnaclepersonnelservices.com. You can leave comments on YouTube. You can leave comments in Facebook. I will respond to you. Thank you for your time today, and I hope it was helpful, as I said. Take care of yourself.